to fashion to, utilities, but we are specifically focusing on ISPs, of course, for this particular webinar. So let's get to know our speaker. So like Mr. Charles said, my name is Nelson Bassi, and a bit about my background. I am currently the CTO at Flowsoft.io. We are the one and only and first Nigerian company that builds the OSS and BSS for ISPs, where ISPs can run their operations all in one platform. And before that, I used to work as a software engineer at Google in London. And even prior to that, I was in Kigali, Rwanda, to help build the government services, their passport control services in Kigali here. So my expertise cuts across world-class softwares and also building for ISPs and network operations, security, and all of that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So of course, just like, because you think of it like we are in class. So before the session starts, you need to have some definitions, right? So everyone is on the same page. So of course, the first slide is going to be, what is asset management? And we have a textbook definition on the left-hand side, which I'm guessing everyone can read. But in addition to this textbook definition, we also need to, understand what really does that mean after all of this text and English, right? So it is the process where, as an ISP, you can organize your assets, right, and have it accounted for, starting to knowing from the planning to it being deployed, how it is maintained, does it need upgrades or not, then how do you dispose of it, right? Just think of it like we're going to talk about the entire life cycle of an asset. We're also going to understand what exactly is an asset, because I think that's also one of the misconceptions that we've seen many ISPs make. We're thinking that a particular thing is what they should be tracking, mainly the hardwares, and forgetting about the logical or virtual assets that they have, which we're also going to go into that and then talk about not just the hardwares, but your software licenses, your virtual logical assets. How do you track all of them? And even your cloud subscriptions, right? All of that are your assets. And as a scaling ISP, you need a way to be able to track that in the whole life cycle, right, from start to finish. Then we might ask why this matters now, right? Like I kind of like hinted before. As an ISP, you have like lots of things to worry about: your CPEs, your routers, your OLTs, your switches, even the things that I use on the field, right? Your OTDRs, right? All of that are your assets. You need to track them. And then, yeah, also in the Nigerian context where we have things like unreliable power, theft, and also on like ghost licenses, I think this is very important for you to know. Then thirdly is like an interesting stat that almost 70% of companies do not even know where majority of their assets are, right? It's like, okay, I just know I have 500 ONTs, but where are they exactly? You cannot account for it, right? And that is why this is very important for us to, come back together and remind ourselves that for a successful ISP organization, all this important part of the company needs to be given attention, right? Then we should so before we even get into the details, ask yourself this question, right? As an organization, where is all of my assets, right? If you cannot answer that question, then this webinar is for you. The next question is, okay, I know where all my assets are, but then who last touched it? Who is with this particular asset, right? If you cannot answer that question, then this webinar is for you. Then the next question is it compliant, right? Same thing. Now, is it working? So as an organization, you need to, at every point in time, be able to answer these key questions about your assets, right? And that is why we are here to remind us about it. Then let's now deep dive what exactly are assets, right? I've broken this down into 4 main categories. where I think the first one is where most ISPs focus, where it is the hardware asset, right? Your ONUs, your ONTs, your OLTs, the typical network devices that we have. Then some try to, have some sort of management and tracking for it. And, but then of course that there's still room for improvement. Then we have your software assets, right? If you let's say if your employee base is around maybe 50, you're probably having different Windows system for them for support, and then are you installing Microsoft on it, right? Then are you able to, like, for all your devices, know what versions of Windows are on it, and you're tracking it? Are the license going to expire, right? Right. So that is what you should also consider as well as your software assets. Now we down now rank the network assets, which think of these ones as like the not the hardware ones, but the logical ones, and things like your IPs, right? Your VLANs. Like, are you able to know basically at any point in time your IP subnets, your VLANs, where they are, what they're pointed to, what path they're giving, right? That visibility needs to be known, right? Then is your digital and cloud assets. Are you on a SaaS platform, right? Are you using a VM? Are you on AWS? Like any of these cloud assets. Are you also able to track licenses across all of that? Right? So, because I think, imagine you're on a SaaS platform and then you are not able to properly track your license and you're logged off. And again, in Nigerian ecosystem, your customers will not even wait a bit before they go to Twitter to complain about your services. But all of this they all link together on how like a suite operations can be run, and then minimizing all of those things that could happen. So now here we then going to really touch on the core life cycle. The first, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but the first thing is the planning and the forecasting, right? That is the first stage of ITAM. You need to be able to have a data-backed planning. Keyword data-backed, right? You need to know, okay, for this quarter or for this year, what is the plan for asset acquisition, right? Could be hardware. Remember, we talked about the different kinds of assets. It could be any of that. But what is the plan for the acquisition of these assets? You need to have that planned out, and that would also be if you have a good management system to give you an overview or to back it up with what you're doing, right? From there, we have the procurement, the second down here, right? After you've now planned, can you still see my screen?
No, I can't see it. I can't see it again. It just went
Let
off
me.
now. Yeah.
Is it back on?
Okay. Yeah, it's back. It's back. Thank
All
you.
right, great. That was a glitch.
All right.
So from I think we said from the forecasting and the plan, you now need to know, okay, how are we going to procure these assets, right? And again, I think procurement is also like a wide and deep topic on its own that maybe in a different webinar we can deep dive into procurement as a single theme or topic of discussion. But we're still going to touch a brief about it. So basically, it's how do you track from your suppliers to your vendors, right? Then from sending your purchase orders to getting your quotations, all the way to receiving your goods in your warehouse or your main pop, to even distributing it out to the right technicians on the field, right? All of that should also be something that can be tracked and monitored, right? Then that leads to, I think I already talked about this with the deployment. How is this asset deployed? Which technical staff is with this particular device? Which customer is with this particular device? What is the state of this device? Now that directly leads to the next stage, which is the maintaining and supporting, right? So if you can know where this has been deployed, you can also know the state of the devices, right? Like what's the state of the firmware of all my Huawei ONTs, right? Then my MikroTiks, what is the state? Are they like, is it upgraded, right? Does it need support, right? When was the last time we backed up this MikroTik? if this MikroTik crashes, can we restore the config as of yesterday, right? What is the earliest config restoration you can get from your crashed router, right? All of that is what you should really have planned, or have like be able to answer those questions in managing your assets. Then from there is like, can you audit and optimize, right? Again, leads back to visibility, right, and compliance. And then so that we're going to touch on all of this life cycle, and then leading straight to the first one, which is the planning. Planning starts with data. Yeah, you can forecast, but really you need data. Can you tell things like, how many users did we have this week, and how many users did we have this month, right? Those very two important metrics. And how many users have cut across if you are operating in a multi-pop setting, of how many of my total monthly new installations, how many of them cut across the different pops, right? You need that clear visibility, because it now leads into the planning stage, where you now know, okay, if we are growing at let's say 10% every quarter, then you know the exact numbers of what you can now procure, right? Which you see how everything links together, right? So having a place where you are able to know these statistics in one glance, or at request, is a starting point. Now, next we go to procurement. I think a lot of us are on the left. So I think you can pick and choose. Look at the left and the right. Where are you in this picture, right? Are you managing procurement on WhatsApp? Oh, I need 10 ONTs urgently. Can you deliver? Check your email, right? So you can categorize yourself in these two places, on these two sections. And then if you are on the left hand side, if you find yourself doing procurements on the left, now again, this webinar is, I would say, it was made specifically for you, because we want to move you from the left to the right, from WhatsApp and chaotic procurement to an ordered system where you are able to track everything. You know your vendors. You are able to register your suppliers or your vendors, their address, their contact, their point person, right, who is in charge of communicating with your company. You have all of that listed. And then you're able to generate a purchase order, a PO, and send it to your vendor or to different vendors. Then from there you get a quotation, right? All of that flows into the same system. And then from there it leads all the way down to goods received, right? Where was it received? Is it into a warehouse or into your main pop, right? So the whole point is, if you are on the left, now you need to plan to move yourself to the right hand side of this. This unlocks so many things for the company, which we are going to see as we go. So we are also going to now from the procurement, like I said, for the procurement, we are not going to go deep into it, because that's a whole topic on its own. We're just touching the surfaces to give us an idea of a general what item is. Then, so from the procurement to now go into the inventory intake, right? Can you imagine Huawei manufacturing a lot of ONTs and not able to track how many or where exactly their ONTs are, in terms of, okay, what are the MAC addresses of these devices, right? So then why should an ISP, or why should us as ISPs do not have our own internal asset number or asset code, right? So the best practice here is, when you get your goods delivered to you, you need to also generate asset codes, right? It could be numbers, or most preferably barcodes, right? Generate them for all of your assets. Like here we are maybe focusing on the physical assets for now. All of the assets, you generate the codes and you have them attached to all of these devices. Yeah, most ISPs would avoid this, because it is a lot of work. but like we all know, the way you lay your bed is the way you're gonna lie on it, right? So if you do not put in the initial work to register, track, and assign each asset code to your devices, then you cannot track it. Then you cannot know, okay, where are they, right? So this is literally every steps here like are joined together. So it's recommended that you generate code individually for all of your assets that are delivered to you. Then from there, you have them registered on your CMD, right? On a system, on a portal. Yeah, so I think most use cases now are either Excel or on a piece of paper, but you need to move on to onto something more scalable, right? Something that gives you analytics on it, something that you can easily share with the team, something that is unified and in-house, right? So you after tagging all of your devices, you have them registered on a portal. Let me give you an example. Now, like a company like Google that has, let's say, over 400,000 employees, and on average, one employee has, let's say, 3 devices, maybe 2 phones and one smartphone that has been issued to them by the company. Then multiply that times 400,000, that's over 1.2 million devices, right? Then you need to be able to track all of that. Yeah, you can say, oh, I'm just managing 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 devices, but it starts from the beginning, right? Like it's more of like a culture where the way you start is mostly likely the way you're going to continue, right? So we highly recommend that no matter the scale or size of assets that you are dealing with, whether 100, whether 10,000, whether 50,000 assets, you put in a procedure to tag all of them, right? It's very important. Tag all of the assets. Then from there, you register them in a system, right? That is privileged or role based. Then with that, you can track stock count, right? You can know, okay, so with this, it opens doors for so many things. You can now have automatic alerts to let you know for every pop. You can set threshold, right, to get notified. You can say, okay, for maybe like key pop, I want to, whenever I am down to maybe 200 ONTs, I want the relevant teams to be notified, right? Then those kind of things can only be built upon if you have the right tracking and if you have the right registration. So that is why this, alongside every other part of the life cycle, is very important. Then from the inventory intake, where we are going to now talk about like um, the smart field dispatch, which this part is the deployment part, right? So we're going to start all the way from the left. How many work orders are created daily or weekly? Can you answer that question? Then of all the work orders or service orders created, they are assigned to the technical teams. Do you have visibility of who this was assigned to? Like we're not talking about paper and pen or WhatsApp coordination. Is everything in a system, right? Can any team that wants that information go to the system and say, okay, who is with ONT with this serial number, right? And have the visibility. Okay, what this is where it is. It is with this technician, right? Or is with the technical staff. They are yet to install it, right? Do you have that? So that is the beginning of that. So what we recommend here is that you need to most recommended it is you can map this with a GIS system, which is going to now lead back to the tracking here, where for each of your clients, whenever a service order or a work order is created, the system should automatically know which technical staff that you have assigned to those regions, right? So you need to then create regions. If you are, let's say in covering Lagos, you have to have regions of your network and assign groups of or teams of technical teams there, and that assignment also needs to be captured so that automatically you can have this workflow that we have here, where installations or maintenance tickets come in, they are automatically sent to the right technical group or technical team, right, because of the regions. And from there is the next step, right? You are now assign the equipments they need for them, right? And we're also going to show you what this should look like in terms of the system or the visibility, right? You should be able to have a system where you can assign the devices, the ONTs, the patch codes, right, to any group that needs to go out for a service, and all that needs to be tracked, right? Such that again, you can with this you can pretty much minimize errors or loss to like a high degree of accuracy. Then from there is joining that with a mobile application for your technical team, right? Your technical team on the field, they need to be able to be empowered, right? They need to be able to be empowered with also a smart device where they are able to where you can push work orders real time, right? If they are urgent, depending on your organization structure, right? But you should have a way where you can push these kinds of notifications to them, and they are able to, imagine an installation ticket where they have to know the client's address, the phone number, and everything about the client. And if you are doing that with maybe WhatsApp or maybe generating a PDF for them, whatever how you're doing that, then you are missing out on so much more efficiency that you can get from operations. So we recommend that you have equip them with mobile applications, right, where they can just with a click, right, see all the tasks assigned to them. And also with a click, they can have visibility on all the relevant information for each ticket. And interestingly, which I think this might be for a different webinar for advanced field service orchestration. Then in the age of AI like this, now you can take this to the next level. You can automate this, right? Because we also know that one of the biggest expenses for ISPs is on the cost of fuel and diesel, right? Of course, for dispatching. Now that with proper item that leads to the mobile app being empowered by technicians, you are able to basically effectively provide routes, right? That can help the technical team to minimize costs, right? So I think, for example, the technical team had, let's say, three work orders to be done for the day, but the work orders are in different, like, far apart, let's say lots of kilometers away. But a new work order comes in for that day, although it is not for that day, right? They have pending things to do, but the work order comes in at the exact location that they are in, right? Then an optimized system should be able to push that new work order automatically to them and say, okay, this new work order, although is new, but it is just 5 minutes from where you are. It is cost effective for you to just handle that before you drive all the way to the other part of the city to like install, right? So that shows how ITAM leads to everything in the ISP operations, not just visibility, but efficiency, streamlining, right, and cost reduction. And from there, you have the actual tracking, right? Can you know how many hours your technicians spend or the technical team spend on the road, right? You might ask, why is this important, right? It can help you know when you start a job and when you end the job, right? Because if you know that if on every Monday they leave for job installations, let's say at 8 a.m., then they're always on the road for 2 hours. Then with that you have the visibility to like optimize and say, okay, why don't we on Mondays we go out at 9, right? And see how to reduce or how to optimize that, right? But all of that cannot be done if you don't have the proper asset management, starting from procurement to, like we talked about, to inventory, now to the dispatching, right? Then can you also confirm installation, right? You can think that asset management is just, okay, I just want to see I just want to see how many ONTs I have or how many patch cables I have. No, it goes all the way to at installation time, has this customer confirmed that that installation was indeed done, right? So you need all of that needs to integrate together, which now links back to your system to tell you that okay, this ONT left Lekki Pop is now with the technical team and now is now with a customer because they have approved installation, maybe using your own self-care application or maybe via an OTP, right? But all of this can only be empowered with a proper asset management process in place. Now, here is what we believe that the practical and ideal asset traceability should look like. So this is a snapshot for one device, for one particular ONT with this serial number, for example. You need to know that it's currently in the Lekki pop, right? But in addition to knowing that, right, you need to also know what was the movement of this device, the transaction of this device. You need to know that this device first landed in the main pop, right? When maybe after procurement, the inventory was recorded in the main pop first. You need to know that on that same day in the afternoon, this particular ONT was moved to the Lekki pop, right? Meaning that if you're moving ONTs from pop to pop, the recipient of the recipient of these devices needs to log on the system that I got this device, right? And so that you're able to have this full traceability. Now you also need to know maybe 2 days after that Tunde went out with this device for installation, right? And this applies to every other physical asset that you're managing. Then you also need to know that okay, maybe this device was with Tunde for 3 days, and then on the 15th, Tunde successfully installed this device at Obi's house, right? And Obi confirmed it because your system sent an OTP to Obi to mark the installation as complete. So you can have a central point of truth, right, for all of these traceabilities. Then you can now know, okay, maybe the device was 10 money from your account to a different account. You're able to track that, right? So this is the beauty of all of that for me. Like personally, I find this to be very, very insightful, right? And gives the company like a head start, like an edge over every other things, and also streamlines so many things along the lines. So why should you take ITAM seriously, right? We all know like in this part of the world, the high cost of infrastructure and replacement, right? Nobody wants to replace infrastructure, right? The amount of funds that goes in there is a lot, right? So because of that, this is I think this should justify the amount of work, right, that you put into IT asset management, because we want to reiterate that it is not simple to do, right? You just need to, but then you need to make that decision to do it, right? Proper asset management is going to save you a lot in the future, right? High cost of infrastructure and replacement, you can reduce that. Mismanagement or theft, publicly or internally, you can also reduce that, because at least knowing how a particular device, like the transaction of it from one place to the other, automatically gives you visibility, right? And also, if you don't have visibility, what we call the MTTR, the mean time to repair, basically goes higher. Now, mean time to repair is a broad concept because it goes from, let's say, a single item like an ONT to a fiber network, right? So imagine there is a, fiber cut or a sabotage of some point. If you do not have, if you do not have visibility, right, you can have a 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, 6 day, 7 day, 8 day, 9 day, 10 day, 20 day, 30 day, 40 day, 50 day, 60 day, 70 day, 80 day, 90 day, 120 day, 180 day, 220 day, 240 day, 250 day, 260 day, 270 day, 280 day, 290 day, 291 day, 292 day, 293 day, 294 day, 295 day, 296 day, 297 day, 298 day, 299 day, 200 day, 201 day, 202 day, 203 day, 204 day, 205 day, 206 day, 207 day, 208 day, 209 day, 210 day, 211 day, 212 day, 213 day, 214 day, 215 day, 216 day, 217 day, 218 day, 219 day, 220 day, 221 day, 222 day, 223 day, 224 day, 225 clear visibility or clear asset management to know, okay, can my asset management tool help me, know where or estimate a point where I should start looking for the cut. I should start sending out my technical team to. Then you are obviously going to, blindly using your OTDRs to, send light to all your path, right, to know exactly this is happening, right? So with item, this can be reduced drastically, right? You can have that full visibility lets you minimize like this MTTR that we're talking about. Now there is the audit, the compliance, and the taxation, right? Let's even talk about the audit. Um, like we are in a very regulated industry, right? And we know that auditing and compliance is very important. But how can you achieve that when you do not have a clear record of where your items are, right? So that is why from the planning that we talked about to the procurement, then doing your inventory to deploying it, right, and managing the life cycle, you need that, right? And that gives you visibility. You can easily audit the system, right? And then your compliance stand, right, with regulators. And also, of course, with taxation, right? It gives you an idea of how that can be, right? In terms of, okay, you basically your number of ONTs that are in the client's house. Your system has an idea of all the ONTs deployed, what are the different plans that are attached to this customer services, right? And then of course like the amounts tied to all of those plans, and then you can easily automatically fill out your taxation automatically, right? Also, the most important thing for decision makers or for directors, it helps you to make informed decision, right? It's like giving you, I don't know if you know about the virtual reality, like wearing a VR glass, you are immersed in the experience. Like it's not like you're just watching from afar. Like you have a full visibility of the whole organization, and you are immersed in it, not just as a decision maker, right? As a network operator. For example, if you have limited OTDRs in the company and you need to use it, you can just go on the system and search, and you know exactly who or which of your colleague has that particular OTDR, right? So it cuts across. Is it like even for the sales team, right? A customer calls and asks, okay, do you have coverage in this area? With a proper item, right, which at the end tells you where all your cables are led, you are able to know, okay, do we have coverage here, even if you're not a network staff. But as a sales team, you can know, okay, we have coverage here because of we have a proper asset management. And then goes into, okay, can we talk about like the consequences of a poor item, right? Which I think it directly leads back to the benefit of it. You are able to drastically minimize ghost hardware, unfound devices, lost or unused software licenses, right? I think this one is very common where you are on a SaaS platform and you do not have a proper management for that license. And then you are always late to your subscriptions. And that also directly impacts operations, right? But with proper item, right, can you have that tracked as well? And because of that, you can basically eradicate this consequence. Like we also talked about longer customer downtime, right? These are the consequences. If these are not handled or if these are not treated as priority in the organization, you can see downtimes that could take hours, right? Taking days, right? Because you don't have clear visibility, right? You do not know what path to take. Should we go into this street? Should we, like, you don't have that visibility. You are shooting so many bullets and like into different directions, but you can target it at one point or like at 5 different points, right? Then we also talked about the taxing, inaccurate inventory, right, during tax time. Now, you do not want to like be under this real story of losing like millions of naira in assets like loss because of poor inventory management, right? So these are just a few that we could come up, because of course I know everyone can add, let's say, at least 5 more into this list, and it goes and goes beyond. So for this webinar, if we're not taking anything out of it, is more like, okay, we know to remind us, okay, what is asset management, right? And how can we know the different stages, right? Because if you start from the middle, you are pretty much also more or less not doing it right, right? Because if you start from tracking the deployment, or you have not actually handled the inventory, then you cannot have the full benefit of it. So how can you understand the entire life cycle of it? You start from the planning all the way to deployment and also maintenance. And also, this is also very interesting because ITAM is not only physical assets, right? But we know that that's always the majority of the thoughts whenever ITAM or asset management is being mentioned. Everyone can think about, okay, where is my OLT, right? Or sorry, where's my ONT? Where is my OTDR? All of that. But how about your logical assets? How about your virtual assets of your IP subnet? If you're leasing it out, do you know where it is? Like like who you basically lease your subnets to, right? If you're basically structuring your IPs per region, you have an idea where that is, right? So you should be able to have something like this, where you say, okay, this subnet is basically allocated for each region, maybe Lekki, Keja, depending on your organizational structure, right? And you also need to be able to map that this particular VLAN is for customers in Lekki, right? Now, I'm going to pause here and talk about one very important reason for that came to mind is knowledge transfer. I think most ISPs, all of this information is stuck in the brains of their NOC team or their technical team, right? But then if you want to expand your team, that knowledge can be lost or is not shared, right? And you can imagine the disaster or the inefficiency that it would take to transfer this unknown knowledge that was just in someone's brain to the next team member, right? But with proper asset management, in this case, we're talking about the non-physical ones. In any team member that has the right privilege should be able to see, okay, for this particular pop, we are using VLAN 100 for customers, right, in Lekki, right? Or we are this subnets is allocated to Ikeja, right? So with this Swift, you can only imagine how Swift operations can be for an ISP. It's like you're running without bombs, right? And that's exactly the reason for proper asset management, to streamline operations and give you efficiency, like optimize your efficiency to like orders of magnitude higher than what you're currently experiencing. Like, are you talking about your PPPoE, right? Like, you need literally everything. This is just an example in terms of a fiber network, right? Of what you can have. But like we mentioned, asset is literally everything in the system. So whatever like physical, virtual, you need to be able to capture and map all of that, like in one dashboard, easily accessible, one, permission based, only accessible by the right people, right? And also the proper dashboard and analytics is what proper asset management is all about. Then this directly leads us to talking about the benefits of ITAM, right? Which can lead you into interesting automations, right? So you can have alerts for expiring warranties. Is it for firmwares, right? For like for protocols like TR069, you can easily integrate that into your item your item software, right? And you can push out bulk firmware updates to your CPEs, customer premise, your ONTs that are in the customer premises, right? And then, but without item, you cannot do that. Then we have predictive replacement of failing assets. Imagine you have 5,000 to 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 ONTs. No amount of staff that you can hire that would be able to check the attenuation of a particular device, a particular path, right? Let's say for each of your devices, what is their dBms, right? Right. What's their signal strength? What is their bit error rate, right? That or the error rate of that particular path. You cannot know that, but with proper item that integrates with your network tool, then you are able to have like predictive replacements. The system can do its job, right? It basically just goes through all of your 50,000 devices and checks the critical things, right? Checks your power level, like dBms. Check your bit error rate. Like, is it high? Is it even in the right threshold, right? And then trigger the right teams where appropriate, or just alert you in your dashboard, scream at the right team and say, hey, I am shouting at you, right? You need to fix me. Then you go into like the one of my also one of the one I find interesting is the anomaly detection, right? That basically not just your ONTs, it goes to your OLTs, right? Basically, let's like embrace the power of technology that is happening currently, right? Let AI do the work for you, right? How can you then integrate a machine learning model to detect anomalies in your network? Because it's interesting is even with experienced network engineers, there's a level to like you can still miss some things, but the models would not, right? So with proper item, then you can unlock the power of automation, and that's also what we are trying to show us the potential of what you can see where your current operations are, and we give you a visual or give you an idea of where you can be operating at, right? And giving you like the things that how you can get there, and lets you know how efficient you can take your operations. Then I think closing off, we are going to show us a live demo of what proper item or internet asset management can help us with, right? And before we even play the video, we want to ensure that, or want to like point out that for you to get to this stage where you're able to reap these benefits of a proper internet asset management, you should have done the things that we talked about, right? Register your procurement. You should have been able to like register your inventory, map out the deployment, have it all registered, right? And then you know exactly what is where. Then with that, you can basically be able to like have one of the benefits that we are showing right now, which is about visibility, which is about downtime, which is about like just having a clear overview of what your system looks like. So I'm going to quickly play a short video, which will, and then I'm going to pause on intervals to then explain what is happening and walk us along as we go. So here is a GIS system which integrates with an asset management software, right? And this unlocks the power of visibility on the GIS, right? You can have assets, you can have visual visibility on all of your in this case your physical assets, right? You know exactly where they are. Are they offline where they are, right? Are they online? Now, if they are offline, are they offline because the customer has not subscribed for the billing cycle, right? Are they offline because there is a power outage in their area, right? So that gives you all that visibility. You can answer all of those questions about a particular pop or the organization at large, right? If you had all the different things about the item that we talked about. So let's go on to watch the video. So, right. So here is initially the GIS was empty. Now you can there's a section called a visibility control. You should be able to say, okay, I just want to see my fiber path, right? I want to see where I have my fiber. I should either it could be either active or inactive fiber, right? But depending, right, you want to see it. Is it your planning stage or your active fibers? You want to see where they are, and this, of course, leads this, of course, touches different departments, the sales, the knock, because they can easily just come to the search bar here and search and see if they have coverage in a particular region, right? So everything is linked together. If you're not taking anything out of this webinar, we should know that ITAM is not just an isolated concept. It is more or less the heart of the ISP, right? On how it operates, because it cuts across the whole operations. So let's go on. So with this, you can activate the labels. You can want to see the actual streets, right? If you want visibility on the street names, you should be able to do that, right? Then right here is right. You should be able to say, okay, on this particular pop, for example, I want to see all my ONTs wherever they are on this map. But right now, I only care about the online devices, right? And you can have visibility on all of your online devices showing in the green here in this state, where you can see exactly where they are and if they are also online, right? Then you should also be able to know, okay, which actual ONT is this. You can see the serial number, which, remember, we talked about the ITAM platform, where you can see for each ONT, you see which customer it belongs to, right? So you can just take this serial number and vinculate it back to your ITAM software. You should be able to see you should be able to know which customer this is, right? So everything is linked together, right? So let's go on. You can turn it off, and then you can then activate a different category of customers, right? So here is now saying, okay, I now want to see a different category of customers or my ONT devices, but I only care about the offline ones, right? And not just the offline ones. This is showing you the ones that are offline because of a fiber issue, one way or the other, right? It could be a cable cut, it could be a hardware device, but what you know is that this particular set of offline devices, they are not down because of power. They are not down because the customer did not pay. They are down because there is an issue one way or the other, either high dBm, a high bit error rate, or a bend in the fiber. You can know that this is for sure why these customers are offline. And that, again, can be achieved with proper asset management. And just like in the online ones, you can see the SN for each of those devices as well. In addition, you can see the same information offline devices, but the ones that are offline because they have not made payments for the current billing cycle, right? Gives you visibility and all of that. So, and which I'm going to explain why this is important. So imagine in let's say a downtime, you have a downtime in a particular region, and you look at your GIS and everyone is offline. or you want to know who are offline because they haven't paid, who are offline because there is power outage, then who are offline because there is actually a fiber issue. And then you are able to tell from the different categories because your asset management in addition to your GI system is able to tell you that. So this is showing clients that are offline because they have not subscribed for the current billing cycle, right? And then the next thing is the clients that are offline because of power outage. You can see the icon there indicating like a voltage cut. And I will also show you in a different color. In this case, in a different color, showing you, okay, these clients are offline, but because there is no power, right? For some reason, the power is out, right? So you having all of this information unlocks so many insights for you as an ISP, and all of this can be achieved through proper item management. Now you want to see how you can actually manage
Hello, Nelson. Hello, Nelson. Don't think we can hear you. Um, Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we'll have a technical glitch. I'm sure we'll get back to the session as soon as possible. Please do bear with us. Do bear with us. The facilitator will get back to the training as soon as possible. Please, thank you for your understanding and patience. Yeah. So, Nelson, are you back? Hello, Nelson. Yeah. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, please, we are going to be back within a short while. Please bear with us. We apologize and seek your patience, please. Thank you.
hello. Can you hear me?
All right, you welcome back, Nelson.
Yeah, I
We lost
apologize.
you
We had
for a while. Okay.
we had a power outage in my
Oh,
location.
all right. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you for being back. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry
Definitely.
for that brief disruption. We're back. Thank you for your patience. So you
Yeah,
can
thank you very
continue.
much.
All right.
Yeah, let me try and get back to where we stopped at the right. So I think here we were showing us what are the things that are possible, right, with item. And I think I can probably just fast forward this video, and
Okay.
then we can pretty much see where, in this case, where you're registering a new fiber path, right? Not just viewing, you can also basically draw out your path as well. And this is what ITAM plus a GIS system basically provides for an ISP. And also moving forward here is going to be the last thing I want to share is where how with this you are able to map out a proper. Let me just go back a bit here, where you have a cluster of offline devices, and with your item system, you are able to register downtime, right? Where you should be able to register downtime in your from your GIS map to your item, and by just registering the region on the system, right? Because everything is linked together. So this is one of the benefits of item map with GIS, starting from the initial life cycle all the way to deploying and maintaining it, right? And I that would then lead us to the end of this webinar in terms of life cycle. But where do you go from here, right? As an ISP, you just start by auditing your assets, right? You need to basically, yeah, I know it's going to be very difficult for an existing organization that has a lot of assets that are not tracked. But you need a way to basically you need to start, right? Um, collect all the siloed documentation that you have, maybe on Excel sheets or on WhatsApp or on wherever they are, bring them together, right? And then audit them and identify them first, right? Then after that, you have to then centralize the tracking, right? You have to then get a proper and standard item software, right? To then integrate with to then basically register your assets, right? Like we talked about. Then you very important thing, which I think most people miss, is the clear ownership, right? You need to then define clear ownership, right, of the different assets, right? You need to know who is responsible. Now, no, this is different from who has it at the moment, but who is responsible for the life cycle of this particular asset, right? It could be, for example, in the case of the inventory, it could be the store owner or the store manager, right? Who is responsible, who has the clear ownership of this, and that person is responsible for keeping the item up to date and tracking it, right? Then the last but not the least step is you need to train your teams, your technical team, your all of your teams on the benefits of item, and hopefully they are also in webinars like this where they can hear firsthand, right, the high level or overall benefit of item, and that will be easy then to integrate in your day-to-day operations. Now, key takeaways that we can take note of. So, like we've seen, item is not just a technical tool, right? It is a business enabler. It directly impacts every part of the organization, from revenue to reliability to even to regulatory standing, right? And then my very important note is the last piece down here, that in IT asset management, it is not a one-time project. So you should not think of it that way. It's not like a thing you do one time and then it's over. It is a discipline that you should instill into your organization, and you reap the benefits compounded over time, right? So that's how you should approach it, and bring it as a culture in your organization where Everything has to be documented. Everything has to be mapped. Whenever an update happens, everything needs to be documented, and people need to be responsible, right, and have ownership of each levels of the life cycle. And that leads us to the end of this webinar. And thank you very much. And if you have questions, Mr. Charles, we can take it from here.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, and thank you so much for this expository session. Thank you, Nelson. We sincerely appreciate. And once again, we also apologize for that few minutes glitch. We are out for a few minutes. We are so much glad to receive your questions at this moment via the Q&A session. Please, we want to ask that we begin to compile these questions, um, begin to send them via the Q&A, not via the chat. The Q&A is better off for us to quickly pick it up for treatment. I also want to request that our survey, our post-webinar survey is very important. Yes, Daniel, can you send your questions, because we may not be able to allow unmuting. Is it possible you type in your questions or inquiry via the Q&A? We'll quickly treat it from there. Please, I will appreciate you also fill out the survey. It's just a 4 questions. It will enable us serve you better going forward. It will help us to really tailor, structure this webinar in a very beneficial way, so that we'll capture all the relevant fine tuning you want us to do. So, Daniel that raised his hands up, can we get your question? Because I don't know if we can allow you. We designed this. Okay, I think if someone is asking him. Yes, the webinar slides and the recording will be shared after this session. Of course, to those who fill out the survey, please. We are waiting for the questions to start rolling in. Meanwhile, I want to ask Nelson, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
So I want to ask briefly, what someone asked. Let me just pick it up from here. He asked via the WhatsApp that what is the name of the software that is normally used for this item tracking and the rest of them? Is it what can be shared? Or maybe do we get back to?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so for that would really be ISP specific, because there are several item management softwares. There are a couple open source ones, which I think I can also maybe share with you, which can be sent to the participants as well with this
Okay.
slide, right?
Okay.
But and then the one of them you can also use is of course Flowsoft, which is a Nigerian software that helps, so basically helps you with ITAM and GI system. So I think that those are the things that you can look into.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Another question is, what role does ITAM play in reducing cybersecurity risk?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's actually a very good question. But then that touch into like the heart of it all. So the role it really plays is I'm going to answer it with an a real life example, right? So imagine an ISP having thousands of ONTs that are deployed to customers, and they do not know what firmware versions that are all on that ONTs, right? And then they do not have the proper way to push updates, right, to those ONTs that are out already in the field. Now we know in this space where there are always vulnerabilities, zero-day vulnerabilities, there are always updates being pushed out. So if you do not have that visibility to know what firmware is on all of my devices on the field, then to know, okay, is this particular firmware, does it have vulnerabilities, right? Which is, that's item. Then you cannot push out the bulk updates or send out teams for updates. So that's a direct link on how ITAM can help with security in the context of an ISP.
All right. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we are still expecting more questions from participants. We appreciate everyone to put down something and send across, except if you are telling us that you understood it so much that you won't need any clarity. But we believe that inquiries and questions delve more deeper for better clarity. So please, we are waiting. We appreciate you to start rolling out your questions, and also we appreciate if you can fill out the survey. Um, of course, the link to the survey is boldly shared via this chat. We have shared the link for the survey severally on this chat, please, on the chat box, please. Just scroll up. We've shared it almost 3 times. So please just click and fill out just 4 questions. Less than 30 seconds, thereabout, you are done. We appreciate everyone to be part of this survey. It's important for us to serve you better, important for us to really structure this webinar in a way you will get it. Now, Glory Basi asks another question. Okay, let me start with Chime Michael. He asked, how do we track assets like router or router or ONT for instance at real time? Does it trigger alarms? Nelson?
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, go on. Is that all the question?
That is the first one. The second one is, how do I get started with item from Glory Bassi? I hope Glory Bassi is not your sister, your younger sister. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for the first question,
how do we track
sorry,
asset?
can you repeat the first question?
Yes. How do we track asset like routers or ONT for instance real time? Does it trigger alarms? You know, for instant real time, how do we track asset like router or ONT?
Right. So I want to believe that the question is asking about like real time geo tracking, right? In terms of not just knowing, because tracking is different. Not just knowing is it online or offline, but you want to know the geolocation of your ONTs, right?
Yeah.
So for that, that is one of the biggest challenges with item, because you need to, it's more of like the advanced item management. You need to do a lot more to have that tracked, right? One is you can use something called A tags, right? So A tags are um, devices that can last for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, right? And they can emit geolocations for wherever they are, right? So if you can, and again, that comes with expenses, right? If an ISP really wants to ensure that for some ONTs, that they know the geolocation of all of their devices, then you need to employ tagging those your devices with air tags, and then you link it with your ITAM system, right? So that just then that becomes an active geolocation, just like your phone. So wherever that device goes to, the air tag basically sends periodic geolocation to your GIS that is linked to your ITAM, right, as well. So that is the way you can achieve that, which needs other components as well.
All right, fantastic. Okay. Then Glory Bassi wants to know how she can start with item. How do I get started with item? Is there a brief algorithm way to get started with it?
Yeah, I wish we had a like a magical wand that you can just spin, and then you have item in your organization, but that's not the case, right? I think this slide that we can bring in back here is what you would need. So I'm going to handle this from two angles. If you are an existing organization with existing assets that have not been tracked, then you need this, right? Where you have to go back and do the work. You need to basically, as much as you can, right? I'm pretty sure that you have this tracking somewhere, but they're just scattered across, maybe on Excel sheets, on maybe screenshots, somewhere. You need to start there and gather as much as you can and log them in a centralized management system. That is backtracking from your old assets. Then from there you now have to ensure that you have policies in place that moving forward, new assets that are procured should should follow this process of planning, procurement, and tracking, and registering of them, right? And then from there, you assign clear ownership, right? Who is responsible for these assets, and for this like who is responsible for this, right? Giving ownership. Then you go into consistent training, consistent reminders, always ensuring that this policy must be met in the team by either trainings or webinars like this, inviting your teams to webinars like this so that they are aware of the benefits of ITAM. So that's how you can get from not having ITAM to having ITAM implemented in your organization. I hope that
All right.
helps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. It's great to understand from that perspective. Now, Ayobami is asking this question. How do you manage large geospatial data sets? How do you manage large geospatial data sets? Ah, I don't know why you got that term clearly. You know,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
okay. So large ones, data sets. So how do you manage?
Yeah, so I think there are so many things we can talk about it, but I'm going to try and pick the things that I think are the most important. So one is you need a standard format, right? Right. It could be either GeoJSON or KML, right? And I think we prefer KML, right? Which you can get that if you are drawing let's say your path on, let's say, Google Earth. Most of the tools can generate or export KML for you, right? That is the first step of that. Now, having that KML, you also need a spatial database, right? By database, I mean, like, I'm not sure how familiar we are, but things like PostgreSDB, it has a standard for storing geospatial databases called PostGIS, right? So
Okay.
using databases like that are native to storing spatial databases. You can also even use MongoDB with GeoJSON. So then if you have all of that set up, then you are able to effectively store your geodata. And also, to add on that, storing it is not the only thing. You need to efficiently read it, right? So imagine having regional data across, then you need to have vector enabling readings where you can. So vector readings is going to help your DBs to like read your spatial data very efficiently, right?
Mm.
And then with that, you should be. Again, it depends on the scale. If you're talking about maybe Google scale, you need to make sure that your database is well partitioned, right? And you can, effectively, which also basically effectively enhances your reads.
Okay.
And then a better caching. So with all of those things in place, I believe that you should be able to handle whatever large geospatial data set that you have in place.
Fantastic. And in addition, we cannot really exhaust all of these theme or topic in this 1 or 2 hours discussion. So I'm going to recommend and suggest that for those of us participants who want to go to the next level, really in regards to implementation and to know more on this subject, please. Um, we shared our email here, info@ixp.net.ng. Please get across to me. The expert who is the facilitator today will be handshake with you so that you get to understand deeper, and also we want to get to the next level regarding implementation. He's very much available. Flowsoft has been our partner in this regards and in some other key subjects. So they're going to assist you and work all the way with you to ensure that you get the values on this topic. Please do not do not be available to share that email with us on this so that he can be very much available to discuss further with you. So next thing is he also asks this quickly: how is GIS mainly used in urban planning stroke disaster management? How is GIS mainly used in urban planning stroke disaster management?
Yeah, so I will. So I really like to answer my questions with examples, right? And then that
Okay.
brings it home,
Okay.
right? So for the urban planning, right? If you want to cover a region, right? As an organization, so many things are important to you. One is the cost, very important, right? You want to know the cost of that project. Second thing, you care about the quality of your lines, right? And that's where GIS can help. With the cost, with GIS, you can plan your infrastructure ahead of time before it's even deployed, right? Like I was showing in the live video, where you have a dedicated team, right, that can use the GIS to draw and cover up all your intended coverage, right? And the GIS should be able to give you something in return. It should be able to tell you, okay, how many meters of fibers do I need to cover this region, right? What kinds of fibers do I need to cover this region? So the GIS should be able to give you that data, and then some advanced GIS should be able to even compute and give you even more things like the cost estimate of it if you provide your currency and all of that. Now going into um, disaster recovery or management. Now then that goes in. I think I also shared a snippet of that. Now it goes to after the planning, when you have now deployed your fiber path, or you've been basically then the project is live. You now activate it on your GIS, and then you link your GIS to your CRM, and then it reads and knows where your live customers are, basically linking it to your ONTs and linking it to your terminal boxes, right? Now with that, you can effectively, to some degree, minimize like disaster, because you can have a cluster, like using the cluster models can really help you tell by even by looking at the GIS, you can know that in this area there is a downtime, right? And then you can focus your maintenance effort on that area as opposed to all of your network. So with examples, that is how the GIS can basically help out in those specific areas.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. So it will be much appreciated if we will have continued this in details. However, time constraint has always been the challenge. So please, for those of us, the participant who wants to go the step higher, a step further, the facilitator, the expert is available. You can reach him for more insight. Do not hesitate to get across to us. The emails have been shared in the chat box. Also appreciate you fill out the um, the survey. Like I said earlier on, the filling out the survey guarantees you having a copy of the slides and the recording, because we understand very much that getting your feedback is an enabler. It triggers us to do better in the subsequent webinar. We also appreciate you can also share topics that you want us to push forward in this webinar or this session, so that we'll always align with your key needs and key deliverables. So we at this point we are still trying to get more questions find out. I want to ask if there are more, let's get them on board so that we'll wrap up this session and deal as decisively with any other one we have now. So, are there more questions? We're expecting more. Please, are we good to go? We good to go? I was having one of the questions earlier. Uh, but Nelson, how can an organization measure the ROI, return on investment, of their IT asset management? Is it what is beyond this scope? Measuring the ROI. Is it
Um,
beyond the scope?
I mean, we can still talk about it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you to effectively measure that, you need to be able to have the data of lost or unreturned routers before item, and then have that same data after item, right? And then
Okay.
you calculate the percentage decrease. So, for example, if an organization has not employed item yet, and they know that basically they lose, let's say, 3x of their devices, maybe to untracked or theft, then after implementing item with like a clear percentage decrease, the calculation can let you know, okay, item has helped us to reduce this by this X%, right? And then you can easily tie that back to ROI, right? Because again, numbers are tied to revenues, right? You can calculate
Right.
that for the ISP. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So we appreciate that insight. We appreciate that feedback, and it's been a long session of values and great, amazing moments. This webinar has been explosive. We've gotten insight, we've gotten views how to track, how to manage, and also optimize this great asset, because they are key importance. They are key um, devices and investment to every organization. So we thank you, the audience, for being here. And like I said before, this is brought to you by IXPN, the largest exchange point in West Africa, and also Flowsoft. Flowsoft have been a great partner in the area of support for the IXP and allied industry. So we still look forward to any questions, any inquiries via the Q&A box and chat box while we're trying to round up this session. It has been a great moment, truly moment, and begin to understand how the life cycle of our assets should be optimized for greater result and greater turn on investment. So we are looking forward to next time we'll come back to you with a more um, exciting topic to be dealt with, and we will very much appreciate your time and your support by being part of this moment. Um, in the absence of any other questions and feedback, comments, queries, and the rest, I think we should call it today. It has been a great day. Should we? Next thing, is there, yes, next thing, is there any your closing remark before before we call it
Yeah,
today?
no, I think you've said it all, and we are open to knowing what directions our members would like, because again, individually this can go deeper, right, where you treat procurement and GIS separately, or even talking about advanced automation with AIs. So depending on, so we're looking forward to hearing what topics our members, our partners are interested in. So yeah.
Yeah, and in that remark, in that case, we're going to also, based on, of course, on your feedback, there are need for having the item part 2 series. We'll let you know and we'll come back to you on that. We appreciate every moment, every time you have been with us. IXP, IXPN and Flowsoft, we continue to deliver capacity building initiatives like this. And also, we by September, we're also running a physical classroom CCNA training for those of us that want to really get equipped in the area of networking and upskilled in that area. Please, we will keep this partnership for any other webinar that will be very great to meet your needs. So please, while we are still trying to round up, I'm getting some feedback here. Okay, yeah, go with email. Okay, so we thank you for your time. We thank you for your engagement. We thank you for your comments, and we appreciate every contribution being made here, especially the facilitator, the trainer, and his team. Nessim Bassi and the Flowsoft team. They've been amazing all the way, right from the previous webinar. It has been great on network. So we are looking forward to more enhanced series that will really equip us better and make us confident in delivering value to our respective environments or operations. So, in the absence of any other thing, I think we should call this a day. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone that has shared one of this. We'll come back to you. For those of us that signify one more thing, please. You can also signify your interest by writing to us regarding the sharing of the email, the slides and the recording. Share it to info@ixp.net.ng. It will be shared on the chat. Please just send your requests here, including those of us that wants to have one-on-one engagement with the facilitator regarding the next further or level. Please share all across to us here so that we can take it up from there. We will really be happy to really ensure you get value for every aspect of this topic, and we'll be happy you are glad at the end of the day. So in the absence of every other thing, I think we should call this today. Thank you. Have a great day. Every other things can be shared to us via the email I shared to us. I gave out here. And do have a lovely day ahead. Thank you.